This is Greg Fowler for Online London, and I'm with Eric Southern, who's a candidate for mayor. Welcome. If elected, how many hours per week on average do you expect that you'd spend working in your elected capacity?
I would assume it'd probably be around 50 to 60 hours a week.
Do you think ward councillors are currently paid enough for the amount of work that they'll be doing during the next term of city council?
The one report I read said they work effectively full-time jobs, but it's considered a part-time job, so I think I'd leave that decision up to the board that's figuring out pay raises to see if they're paid enough.
The city's governance model is currently undergoing a significant change, and you understand that that includes elimination of board of control. Do you think that this will increase the necessity for ward councillors to inform themselves about issues outside of their own ward boundaries?
I think that ward councillors should have been informed about issues citywide anyway, because generally a city doesn't have strict issues inside of one ward, right? Issues will flow over a ward because the boundaries are just, manufactured. So they should already be informed about citywide issues.
Do you live within the geographical boundaries of the electoral area in which you are contesting this election?
Yes.
How many of your post-teenage-years have you lived in London?
13?
Have you attended any standing committee meetings over the course of the last 4 years?
No, I haven't.
Have you attended any board of control meetings over the last 4 years?
No, I haven't.
Are you familiar with the Municipal Act and the Municipal Councillor's Guide?
Somewhat.
Strengthening Neighbourhoods is a citizen task force which recommended development of a neighbourhood matching fund type program for large and small community projects other than celebrations or events. Do you support that recommendation?
I would support it because then constituents are showing what they want, and so the city should support what the constituents want.
What maximum per project amount do you think the city ought to contribute?
I think it would depend on the project and the city need, so it would be by case basis.
Do you support development of a community program to fund the creation of public art in public places?
Yes, I think public art is a very good, attractive item to bring people to whichever area you're showcasing, and it's good for tourism and commerce in general.
Should the City of London and its boards and commissions embrace the concept of making their data open and accessible to everyone as often as is possible, and adopting open standards for that data?
Yes, I believe in complete transparency as long as citizen privacy is maintained, not only just at the city level, but throughout City Hall and all city services.
When existing software applications have to be replaced, or when software licenses have to be renewed, should the city adopt the use of open source software whenever that's possible?
It should be looked at and have serious consideration, and if it meets the requirements, then be adopted for that situation.
Do you think the city's communication department is being given enough resources, money and personnel to properly maintain the city website and to inform citizens in a timely fashion?
I think the city website is an excellent resource. I've used it quite frequently during the election for their election resources. I would state that the only issue the city website has is the fact that it's not advertised throughout the city enough to let everybody know that it's available as a resource.
Should citizens be able to subscribe to subject-specific RSS feeds from the City Hall in order to stay informed?
I would see that as a reasonable thing.
Should citizens be able to download the agendas of upcoming public meetings, including advisory committee meetings, at least a week in advance?
Yes, everything, every kind of document like that should be available for citizens to view and use.
Despite the requirement of the Municipal Act that all City Hall meetings be public except for specific reasons, it's been argued that they most often are not because of the inability of the public to hear what's being said. Do you support the adoption of a policy which mandates the use of microphones in all public meetings at City Hall?
I would not only support that, but I would also want the recorded meetings to be placed on the internet for download.
So Do you think that the City of London ought to be webcasting all of its public meetings?
Yes.
Should its boards and commissions be webcasting all of their public meetings?
Yes.
Should the chairpersons of public meetings at City Hall have to announce motions and amendments to those motions and the number of votes for and against those motions so that the public can understand what's taking place?
Not only that, but each councillor or each person that votes should have their voting record published.
Should London hire an Auditor General?
I'm not certain if that's required, just due to the fact that it's more bureaucracy, and part of my platform is to try to eliminate levels of management and empower the frontline workers to bring in efficiencies through a Kaizen-style process.
Should homeowners have to pay a percentage of the cost for the repair of damage to underground infrastructure on their own property that has been caused by city-owned trees?
I don't know if that'd be completely unreasonable, other than city generally does the maintenance on the trees, so if the city's doing all the maintenance on the trees, they should pay for some of the cost that the trees damage. Or the city should at least have insurance to cover those costs.
Do you agree with the placemaking concept of neighborhood gateways?
Neighborhood gateways? Sorry. I don't know the issue.
Should there be increased user representation on the London Transit Commission?
Yes, very much so.
If the City of London is going to provide venture capital for businesses, should the city be guaranteed a return on its investment in the event that those businesses become profitable?
If they're set up as profitable businesses, then yes. If they're set up as non-profit businesses that the city's helping start up, then no, because they're not profitable, right? And they would have different venues for their profit to be directed to.
Should people be permitted to naturalize their lawns?
Depending on issues such as mosquitoes and other environmental issues, possibly if those issues are maintained, or as long as quality standards are maintained.
Do you think that London's pedestrians and pedestrian issues are sufficiently represented at City Hall?
I know there are some issues for pedestrians with access on some streets, and on Richmond where there's patios on the sidewalks, and I don't think that's fully represented at City Hall, and I think that it would be reasonable to have public input for those types of issues.
The traffic and parking bylaw prohibits people from using any sidewalk for any purpose other than pedestrian traffic, except as specifically permitted. Should downtown patios, which consume most of the width of the public sidewalk, be permitted?
No, I also think they kind of look like an eyesore, so.
When closure of a public sidewalk for construction purposes takes place, what steps should be required to ensure that pedestrians are not forced out onto the roadway in a manner which puts them at risk?
As most reasonable cities do, I think there should be strong scaffolding to protect the citizens as they walk under any kind of construction that's occurring.
Is the warranted sidewalk program sufficiently funded?
I don't know.
Is the warranted walkway program sufficiently funded?
I do not know.
Old unlit streets are not currently lit unless there's a local improvement program application and cost-sharing agreement amongst owners. Do you agree with that policy?
I think that all streets should have some form of lighting, and as construction or work is done in those areas by the city, that should be a city endeavored task.
Do you think that special funding ought to be provided to London Police for the purchase of additional speed watch radar trailers and the cost of having the auxiliary police unit deploy them on a frequent basis?
I think that the police in London can manage their own budget with respect to those things, and that if it's deemed worthwhile due to police reports on the effectiveness of the devices in saving lives and curbing speeding and things like that, then it would be reasonable have funding to be allocated.
Should the city be spending as much as it is per year from the federal gas tax to construct on-road bike lanes in London?
I do not know how much they're spending, so I do like the bike lanes, and I appreciate when they're not on the road as opposed to when they're on the road, but either is a safety issue for cyclists so that they're not sharing with motorists.
Should bicycles be allowed on public sidewalks?
I would, personally, I actually ride on sidewalks just because I dislike riding on the roads when vehicles come by and scare the crap out of me. So I generally ride on the grass when there's people around, but I think that the city should endeavor to make better bike paths throughout areas that have the high bicycle traffic so that bicycles and rollerbladers can be on their own type of path as opposed to sidewalks or roads. Should
persons in motorized wheelchairs and other mobility devices that are on the public sidewalk be obliged to yield for pedestrians?
I would think that mobility devices have a difficult time yielding way to pedestrians, whereas pedestrians have an easier time getting onto the grass. So I would think it'd be more reasonable that they pause and make sure it's safe, as opposed to yielding the complete right of way.
Should the city install more bike racks?
Yes, anything to have more people ride bicycles seems reasonable to me.
Is the theft of bikes an important issue?
I don't know the statistics of bike theft in London, but if they are unreasonably high, then it would be an important issue.
Do you have any suggestions about what might be done to combat the problem?
There's the possibility of having them in open, well-lit areas, if that's not already done.
Is the city currently spending enough money to promote its web-based ride match service?
I do not know.
Should there be dedicated and discounted carpool parking spaces on downtown streets and in city-owned lots?
I do agree with carpooling, and I don't see any reason why not to discount or create dedicated spots for carpooling.
Should every signalized London intersection provide advanced left turns?
I don't know. It would depend on traffic flow and metrics like that to see if the advanced left turn is warranted due to the congestion on the street.
Do you think the city provides sufficient funding for the community gardens program?
I do not know, but I do appreciate the community gardens, and I think they make the city a better looking city. And if the funding is not adequate, then it could be increased.
Should dogs be muzzled when they're not on their owner's property?
I would say no. I think that there are dogs that could fall under that kind of coverage for being dangerous animals, but it would be a case-by-case basis on which dog needs to be muzzled, and not specific types, just dogs that have a history of being somewhat violent or something. Those should be muzzled.
Should dogs be allowed at community events?
Well, the dogs that are helper dogs, definitely. Depends on the event, I would say. There are some events that would be inappropriate and some events that I do not see the issue as long as the person is picking up poop.
Do you think that people ought to be able to raise chickens in their backyards?
I don't see any horrible issue with it, mostly due to the fact that people have many different types of animals on their property. As long as we have a limit to the number of animals you can have, it doesn't seem unreasonable to be able to have a wide variety of safe animals, right? No tigers or lions, but chickens generally don't kill people.
That concludes the interview. Thanks for your cooperation.
Okay.